Good morning, Olin. How are you?
Good morning, guys. How you doing?
I mean, we're trying to find like the bright side of this because the Bears won, and it's extraordinary that they did so after whatever it was, how many years it was since they won a game without a touchdown, and it would have been great had they scored a touchdown, but they did exactly what you've been wanting to see. They got the ball in the hands of the quarterback at the end of the game with a chance to win, and lo and behold, they complete a 36-yard pass to their star wide receiver, and they kick a field goal, and they win 12-10.
Yeah, we've been asking for that, right? And we talked about in the pregame how Coach Eberflus, I thought they had an advantage on their coaching staff. How would Coach Eberflus match up in the chess game against Kevin O'Connell and that coaching staff on the Viking sideline? And the defense put on an absolute show. I don't think anybody can argue that. And then we talked about for weeks, we need to see Justin Fields win games at the end of the game, get the ball. Last week screaming about, gosh, throw the ball to DJ Moore late. Let him make a play. They make the play at the end of the game. The Chicago Bears kick the field goal, and they win the game.
So, Olin, you know how Chicago is. You know how the NFL works. In your mind, coming out of that game last night, does the final play, 36 yards to DJ Moore, game-winning drive, does that drive for Justin Fields outweigh the two fourth-quarter fumbles?
Yeah, it's a good question, and a good way to answer it, I think, is you guys remember in 2006 in September, we went up to Minnesota. The offense put on an absolute stinker, which happened a lot of times when I played, and I think it was 6-3 at half, kind of like the game we watched. And then Tommy Harris causes a fumble, and Rex Grossman hits Rasheed Davis for a 24-yard touchdown, and we win the game. Even though Rex Grossman made that play, questions still surrounded him. Is he the quarterback, right? So just because you make one play doesn't answer all your questions. The two fumbles were bad. He does make that play, David, and all we can say is this. Hopefully it catapults him to better performances, moving the ball, the offense scoring more touchdowns, because I don't think anybody's going to fool themselves and say last night you answered all the questions, and if we do have one of the first two picks of the draft, that erased it for us. We're keeping you, and we're taking players to surround you with.
It's funny. We talk. I think that what's great is you're heading into a bye week, and we're not sitting here talking about who's going to be the next coach. Is the quarterback going to get paid? Are they going to pick up the option? Is he going to play out his deal? Are they going to draft some? I just think one win, it slows down all the negativity that has circled this team. But it doesn't resolve anything the way that they want. It just sort of slows down the talk.
Yeah, the defense was dominant last night, right? The defensive line, especially, I thought Jalen Johnson had an amazing game, shut a lot of guys down, had one interception, dropped one, but then caused the other one, right? Caused the one that bounced into TJ Edwards' hands. Montez Sweat was dominant. Javon Dexter keeps emerging. But like you said, Mully, we all know what we watched last night. But we kept saying, like, these guys watching the game, right? Will they find a way to lose? These guys have to learn how to win. They don't know how to win football games like the one we watched last night. Well, last night they won the game, and they got to go back, watch the film, and it happens a lot of times, and you can see right where with the two fumbles they were trying to lose it. With details, ball security, when you're out of the pocket, you got to hold on to that football. Can't put your team in that situation. But at the end of the game, they get the ball back. They move down the field, couple runs, a big pass to DJ Moore. The defense stands up after the second fumble, right? Billings, guys, go back and watch Billings on the first two plays of that last drive for the Vikings. Watch what he does to the center. Watch that defense line dominate at that moment. Watch the defense rise up for their team. After the second fumble, when you can hang your head and say, what the hell is going on? They came out with even more energy. Their attitude, their physicalness they play with at that moment, what we call 4-minute defense, 4-minute offense. Really, it's just put your big boy pads on and let's see who wins. And the defense came out, Billings, Justin Jones, Walker, Montez Sweat, all of them, and they just attacked the line of scrimmage and got the ball right back to their offense to win the game. So some really good things there that you have to mention that happened in that game. We all saw the bad. We all know what we're looking at here. We all know that doesn't answer the huge question of the year. Is Justin Fields our quarterback? Everybody knows that game didn't answer that question. No one has to tell us that. But there were good things on that film. They did win the game. Eberflus' unit was dominant. We know against a second-string quarterback, but they were dominant nonetheless. That last drive, if you're a football guy, man, that last drive by the defense, when they went out there and they just had 2 fumbles. I mean, imagine what they're thinking on the sideline. It looked like they weren't thinking anything. It looked like they sprinted to the middle of the field and said, let's get it on.
Olin, what's your theory about why on the final drive, the one the Bears took advantage of and Justin Fields stood in the pocket and found DJ Moore, which was nice to see him actually get the ball to the best player on the field for the Bears. But why did Brian Flores on 5 dropbacks not come after Justin Fields after spending the rest of the game blitzing him half of the time? How surprising was that to you, and why do you think he did that?
I don't know. I don't know why he did it. I'm glad that whoever does sports radio in Minnesota this morning, they have to talk about that. Welcome to the party, right? Welcome. We do that a lot around here, right? Why did Brian Flores go to zone defense? Why did he put 31-year-old linebacker off the practice squad, Anthony Barr, to spy Justin Fields? These are the questions I cannot answer, right? Why did Kevin O'Connell go for it on the 49-yard line?
God,
I don't know.
Crazy.
Like I'm glad. I know maybe Matt Burke is still doing radio, the former center for the Vikings. Maybe he's complaining about that this morning. I hope he is, because I have headaches from complaining about all that stuff the Bears do myself, David. But to your point, really struggled against the blitz. The running backs really struggled picking up the edge defenders for the Vikings, as they did in the first game. A lot to watch for the Chicago Bears on that film, but you get to watch it after winning a football game.
Olin, DJ Moore now has 70 catches for 1,003 yards. He's a 1,000-yard receiver for the Bears, and that's more than double the 482 yards for Cole Kmet, who's having a great year. How good is Moore? Have you, again, I think one of the glorious moments is you get the ball to your best player at the biggest moment of the game, the longest pass at the biggest moment.
Yeah, and with 2 quarterbacks, right? He put
Yes.
that numbers up with a rookie quarterback, undrafted too. So he's very good, and we talk about him a lot. And look, when he catches the ball, he's dangerous to the ball in his hands. His routes are crisp. He always seems to be engaged in games. He doesn't get frustrated on the sideline, which you know he could. He gets frustrated sometimes in the game, which everyone understands. I hear him on the radio with you guys after. He could have been more professional after games that he should be really, really frustrated, right? You don't hear a lot from him. Really a huge pickup for Ryan Poles and the Chicago Bears in a year where they're trying to figure out, okay, is this our quarterback or not? You do have a guy who you can argue is a legitimate #1 wide receiver. Not only that, seems to be a good teammate, seems to be a professional, never really goes overboard on his comments on whether he needs the ball or not. I think, guys, the year he's had, everything considered, has been extremely impressive.
Olin, so that aside, last night the Bears and Justin Fields threw 21 passes at or behind the line of scrimmage. And according to ESPN, that was the most in the NFL since 2020. How does that conversation go today or moving forward between coaches, maybe Matt Eberflus to Luke Getty, maybe between players and coaches, because it can't be something that Justin Fields welcomes. He's not a game manager, and yet they were asking him to manage the game. The offensive line is intact. The receivers are all there. Your quarterback's trying to make improvements. Why do you think the Bears insisted on throwing so many side screens and the ball behind the line of scrimmage?
Yeah, it just seemed like there was a point where they did try to call a couple pocket passes, a couple play action passes. Obviously, with the view we had last night, right, David? I don't know what was happening down the field. I don't know if guys were open. I don't know if guys got beat in pass protection. There's the things they got to watch on film. We'll see as the week goes on when all the film comes out what happened there. Now, it was, as you guys have probably gone over, I haven't heard, but there were it's kind of like a triple option on those plays, right? You can zone read it or you can pop it out. And all they're doing, guys, is that they call it the basketball count, where if there's 2 wide receivers out there and there's only 2 defenders, you throw it out there, right? You figure you have an advantage. You figure EQ St. Brown will make the block like he did a couple times. You figure Tunyon will make the block. Eventually, Minnesota started catching on to when Fields would flip it out. They would just load the box and make him make that decision. Why they weren't going more down the field, I don't know. Like I said, there were a couple times I rewatched some of the film this morning that they did call. It looked like they were trying to take a shot. The running backs might have got beat. Some of the protection wasn't good. And I don't know if guys were open down the field and Justin Fields was missing it. But it does seem at some point there's a disconnect between what they need to see from Fields and what plays are being called. And it looks like even Getty at sometimes is a little confused on or just stuck on my quarterback's not executing these plays. What play do I call next?
Olin, we talked in the pregame about Javon Dexter, and you wanted him to start in the game. You thought it was time to move him in. His presence is there for you. Now, obviously, they whistled him for landing on the quarterback or rolling on him, whatever. I didn't think he was doing that, but what do I know? It looked bad probably. But I'm curious, Montez Sweat was the big issue, and obviously the general manager said he talked to the coach about the usage. I think he was more upset with the word platoon than the usage, but he was only 63% in that Lions game. He's up to 71% in this game. Shouldn't he be in the 80s? I mean, that guy, he is a multiplier, as you'd say.
Yeah, and it seems like Javon Dexter has learned since he's arrived too, right? Javon Dexter's hands look violent. He's getting up the field. He was giving right guard Ed Ingram all he could handle last night, right? And he even beat Bradbury on a back block, got his hands inside, nice block destruction, shoved him back on a gap play and made that play. And as far as Montez Sweat goes, they played him a little bit last night at that 3 technique, right, where Warren Sapp used to play, Tommy Harris, move Yannick Ngakoue outside of him. They ran games off of it. Montez Sweat was absolutely dominant, guys, and so was Billings in the game last night. On Gordon's interception, Billings just manhandles left guard Risner and throws him into the quarterback. As you guys can hear, when I'm watching the film, when guys are getting manhandled, I get excited when I watch the defensive line play like that, man. I mean, they just physically dominated the Vikings, and I think they should take a bow after that game, what that front did, right? That front, and we're talking about you need a multiplier, a guy who makes guys better, and we're hoping that's what Montez Sweat was for one game. That is what he was. And like you said, Javon Dexter's coming. He struggles a little bit on double teams. I'm sure that's why he's not starting, taking on blocks in the run game. But I think the way he's learned the pass rush, the way he's learned other positions, that if you put him out there, he will learn how to play that position. I think Andrew Billings will demand out of him that he get his pads down, that he play a little bit harder. And yes, I am with you. I'd like to see Montez Sweat even more out there on the field. I know that in this Tampa 2 defense, they like to platoon guys in and out, keep them really, really fresh. And really the way that whole defensive line played last night, the argument, they could make the argument that Rasheem Green and Pickens and Dexter, and when their second wave came in, they were playing well also.
So, Olin, what is the value of one victory in a season like this? What is the bounce that the Bears can get, whether it's from morale, whether it's isolated player improvement like maybe Justin Fields or whoever, but what is the value of beating the Vikings on the road for the first time in the division in 2 years?
Yeah, if you use it the right way, right? If you keep moving in the right direction. Look, for the Chicago Bears here, I think there's 5 games left. You don't have any playoffs. You don't need a break, right? You're going to get a break. Trust me, it's coming soon, right? You're not going anywhere. So if I'm Justin Fields, man, this is the most critical time of my career right now. I'm going to grab as much film as I can watch. I'm going to go up there and ask as many questions as I can ask to Ryan Poles, to Luke Getty, to Janoko. I am not leaving the building, guys, during this bye week. I'm going to look at all my film. I have to improve. I know it, right? The value is, does winning make you feel a little more like I can be honest about where I am in my career? The offense has to get going. The defense got to continue improving, getting those details together, and then because you won the game, can you get more guys to buy into your system if you're Getty and your Eberflus? Can we get guys to buy in, to work a little harder? Maybe you mentioned, guys, don't go too far on this bye week, right? Let's work hard. Let's get going. Let's get moving in the right direction because our offense isn't close to where it needs to be.
And those coaches should be up there right now doing exactly what you're talking about. I'm just saying this could be the last week of your career, bye week of your career. You need to really like triple down on whatever work ethic you have because everything's on the line. Whether it's 4-8 and we know they're not going anywhere, but they're trying to save their jobs. So I hope they're working very hard at it, and I hope they're looking over everything and weighing how that was a game plan for Tyson Bagent. I said this to David earlier. We heard Getty say that the week before Fields came back. Well, the game plan's for either guy. And that was kind of weird to hear. But I felt like that was the game plan in this game. It was the horizontal behind the line of scrimmage passing game.
Yeah, they get stuck sometimes is what I'm talking about. And that's what they need to be looking at. And look, Mully, to your point, yes, you do want them working hard, but you have to be working on the right things, right? You have to find the actual problems that you have. And that's what's hard to do, right? A lot of people can be working and doing nothing. You have to identify actually what you have to get better at. And then you have to be able to look people in the face and tell them the truth and say, this is what you have to get better at. No matter how they feel about what you said, you have to be able to say it to them in a football building because look, different than a lot of things. In the NFL, you are going against the best in the world. And when you're going against the best in the world at what they do, there's no time for sugarcoating stuff. It's just you suck at this. This is what you got to work on. This is what you got to find solutions for, or else we will find somebody else to do it.
So, Olin, it's 4th and 10 in the first quarter, and the Bears decide, let's go for it. And then it's 4th and 3 at the 7. And they say, let's kick a field goal. What happened between the 4th downs? Did Flusy lose his nerve or what?
Just a gut feeling, I'm guessing, David, man. I mean, a lot of that game was fascinating to me when you look at the coaching decisions on both sides. Like you're saying, 4th and 10, I'm thinking, man, this is unbelievable. They're going for this. And then I think Cole Kmet fakes like he's blocking, released down the middle of the field. And I think they got 20-plus yards.
Yeah.
And then, like you're saying, man, you're watching it, you're thinking, okay, they're going for it again, but they don't. They kick a field goal. So I think Flus will just tell you, I'm just going by gut feeling where we're on the game situation. And the way I feel the flow of the game is what a lot of people say, right? So it ends up being right in this game, ends up being 12-10. You needed those 3 points. Santos did miss one earlier on the first drive. Gosh, first drive, what was that first drive? 45 minutes? I mean, it felt like they had the ball forever. So I know what you're saying there, and that's a question for Coach Eberflus, but I'm guessing he's just thinking about the flow of the game, where they are in the game, and how he feels about that situation, and whether Coach Getty thinks he has a play at that moment that they can execute.
I love your advice to Justin Fields. I'm curious, did you do that throughout your career? Did you bypass the bye and just keep working on football, or did you try to recover? I mean, it's different in the trenches than for a leverage guy too. You really used your leverage phenomenally as a player. Did you just use the bye week as recovery? Did you go anywhere? What was your general attitude toward it? Did it change as you aged?
It's a good question. It did change, and that was going to be my answer. Just depended where I was in my career and how I was playing, right? How I felt like I was playing at that moment for the Chicago Bears. Never took much time off, but we had different rules too, right? We didn't have that new CBA where I think they only get 2 practices, right? And I think they're locked out of the building actually. So a lot of that studying, a lot of that thing that I'm talking about for Justin Fields, I think he has to kind of do on his own or get together with people outside of Halleck. So I don't know the exact rules. We'd have to look at all of that. But for me, just early in my career, no, I didn't take much of a break. I always felt like I was trying to get better, trying to study old centers, trying to study guys whose games were like mine, trying to find things, guys. If I was struggling with a certain block, I was always trying to find the guy who did it the best and really watch his footwork and his hands and the angles he departed the line of scrimmage from and how it all fit into the scheme you're running. How long did the running back take to actually get to the line of scrimmage on run plays? Those are the kind of details that separate guys in the NFL from playing long and not playing long. And Justin Fields just has to really, really be honest with himself right now after that performance, after this year, after the last 2 years, and say, okay, this is where I am. I'm pretty close to these guys actually deciding that we're going to draft another quarterback, that we're going to go in a different direction. So if I'm Justin Fields, man, for these last 5 games, I'm putting in as much work as possible. I'm insisting my teammates raise their level because the only way you can play good football is to have people playing good football around you. I am putting pressure on Luke Getsky also. I'm asking him what his plan is. I am talking to him. I'm looking him in his eye, and we're talking about every play. I want to know every detail. I want to know how we're going to beat the Detroit Lions when they come to Soldier Field.
Olin, quickly, Greg Olsen, apparently, according to a report, wants to be in the mix for the Carolina Panthers head coaching job. Are you updating your resume?
It's just interesting, right, to watch guys like Antonio Pierce. Now, Antonio Pierce, obviously, I think he's been coaching a while now, so there's a lot to learn. But leadership is important in that position. Can you get guys to move in the right direction? Look, I've seen crazier things nowadays. Guys get chances. Guys, I think Jeff Saturday got that chance down there in Indianapolis. We will see what happens with Greg Olsen. I wish him luck. I wish him luck with that. Why not? All they can say is no, right? All you can do, throw your hat in the ring. All they can tell you is no.
I didn't hear no from you.
You never will.
David, as you know, if I walk back into Hallis Hall, I don't think a lot of people would be happy.
I think George McCaskey needs to put an arm around you and make it right, Olin, and pay you for whatever job they want, and more than whatever it was, $450.
We'll take that with a grain of salt.
Yeah, you're the best.
Good
Thank
stuff,
you,
Olin.
Olin.
Thank
Great
you.
stuff.
Thank you, guys.